I'm Dwayne Brummett. He's Ali Alberigo, and this is the School Owner Talk podcast.
Hello again, Dwayne Brummett here with Ali Alberigo of SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Ali, great to be with you, sir.
Yeah, great to be with you as well, Dwayne. I was saying I texted you a little love letter before. I'm like, I miss doing our calls. When we miss it, I feel out of sorts. Like I feel like my week isn't complete when we don't do our podcast. And last week I didn't do either podcast. So I was really like, wow, I'm a failure.
Nah, everybody gets busy, and it's a midweek check-in for us. I mean, really, it's the middle of the week. We get to say, hey, how did the rest of last week go? How is this week going? And yeah, it's a great time.
It is too, and you know, I think if for nothing else that listeners could hear this, it's just being around like-minded people is just, even if it's a short amount of time. And with technology now, if you have a Zoom account, you can just throw a friend the link and you can chat on Zoom. And I have my website partner barely comes out of her house, but we're always on Skype together, just talking, and I'm working and she's at her house working. We chat and, you know, do things like that. So even my guitar instructor, he's going to be doing a lesson. He's on tour with his band and he's going to be in Scotland. So I'm going to do a lesson from Scotland and his hotel room when he has some time off.
Isn't that neat though, that you can, we now can do that? I mean, I guess we probably always could have done that, but not everybody was tech savvy enough, and it's kind of pushed it that way.
Yeah, definitely. Like, look, there's so many things that came out of COVID that were negative, but then so many positive things as well that you say to yourself, like, oh my God, this is a great, great thing, you know, and that was one of the benefits. We're still running Zoom, and, you know, we have parents that are in the classroom and, you know, watching in our lobby, watching the class, and then the parents, other family members that are at work, they'll tune in and watch from their station. They'll put the phone up and get to see their kids practice, which is something that was impossible. You know, years ago, like we never would have thought, like even testing, a lot of the grandparents from different states could Zoom in and watch the test and be there for their grandchild. Like how cool is that? Like things that we never would. And if not just for that benefit alone, people should maybe Zoom the tests. So maybe other relatives could see it, or Zoom a specific class, like whatever, you know, so the parents could see. Like one of the moms just asked me about summer camp. She said, can we watch our kid in summer camp at all? I said, we're not always in the same room. I said, but there will be some times where we can arrange for you to see if you'd like, and I'll give you the link and we'll make sure the cameras are on and you can watch them, you know, like that's fine with me.
Yeah. But yeah, you got nothing to hide.
Yeah, it's not, but at the same time, how cool is that? Like, you know, for a parent to, I would have loved that, right? Been in my daughter's classroom and see what they're doing. Like, that just every once in a blue moon, just to stay connected.
Absolutely. So today's topic, because this is the reason why you weren't doing podcasts last week, right?
Yeah.
Is, you were a part of the Martial Arts Business Growth Summit.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that, the lineup that you had, and you know, let's kind of talk about some takeaways from that, and then. Obviously, you know, I guess, you know, towards the end, I think we would do our listeners a disservice if we didn't tell them how to reach out and get a hold of some of that information if that's something that they want as well. So,
yeah, definitely. Well, first off, it was cool. It was a lot of work. Like, you know, I mean, I needed to take off Friday night and I was exhausted. Like, and it's not, you know, it's interesting. It's not like, you're like when I used to shovel rock and grass and dirt and all, you know, like physical labor, I'd come home a different kind of exhausted. Like I could gather up my strength and go to the dojo afterwards, but I was exhausted. But like when you have that mental exhaustion, you're done. Like, you know, so I like sat on the couch and I was just like out of it. Like I could barely even talk, not because I was so tired, but just because your brain is so used up, you're having a problem like functioning. And, but it was great. Like we had 11 amazing speakers, like, you know, guys like Dave Kovar, Tom Patiri, Toby Milroy, Stephen Oliver, Jeff Smith, Alan Law. I spoke, Gus Lopez from Lead Hunter Media, Gil Katz. Who am I missing? Did I say Dave Kovar?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, There was a whole bunch. In fact, I could tell you the speakers, but it was just so good. Like just being for me too. Like I was a moderator, so I was on every call. But also Matthew Brennan, which is Solomon Brenner's brother and business partner, and so on the schools. Who else did we have? Tony Giannini, who was he's like amazing when it comes to summer camps and all that. So that's what we were doing all week, and they gave out so much information, and it was just being there. I literally took like pages and pages of notes by hand as well, like myself. And I'm supposed to be a guy who knows his stuff, right? But there's so many things that I forgot, and so many great comments and reminders and so on. It was amazing.
Well, and I can relate to the mental exhaustion. This past week, I was in Nashville, and Coach Burt, I went to one of his seminars, so that was all day Friday and Saturday.
Who is he?
Yeah, so he is I would kind of liken him to a Zig Ziglar sales trainer, motivational speaker, but more process oriented than Zig. So there was a lot of actual, Zig was way more motivational, right? And less tactical, I think.
Okay.
But Coach Burt is motivational, but more the different tactics, step 1, step 2, step 3, those type of things. So and after each day, I was exhausted, and all you did was sat there and take notes.
You go by yourself or with your wife or?
No, I drove down there by myself, but there was some other. So there was 2 other martial artists that are also health coaches like me.
Okay.
I didn't know they were going. I happened to walk into the hotel,
and there they were. And
only one of them was sitting there, and I said, "John, what are the chances?" And he goes, "I didn't know you were coming. I didn't know either." He said, "Yeah, Dan's here too." And so that was just really funny how we were all in the same hotel.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, it was. We went down there more as health coaches. To kind of just tighten up our systems and those type of things.
Right.
But the funny thing is, if you're in the martial arts long enough and you've done enough reading and research and studied, even just the Stephen Olivers, the Toby Milroys, all those individuals. If Coach Burt did not do anything or say anything that was brand new that I didn't know, but there was some connecting some dots and actually some verbiage.
Yeah.
That I go, oh, then it's golden. Cause I can remember back when I had Keith Hafner, so Grandmaster Hafner as a coach, and just even in the phone script, because I did Tommy Lee's success system.
Yeah.
Forget what it was called, but anyways, I used his phone script forever. And then there was one little thing that I took from Keith Hafner and put that in the phone script that made all the difference.
Right.
Just to enhance the structure that Tommy gave me.
Yeah.
And then I literally tell people that I paid $2,000 to get that question from Keith Hafner.
Right.
And so the same thing kind of applies to this. This was like a $2,500 seminar for me, not including the time spent in the hotels and the gas and all that stuff and food, but there was just some connecting the dots. All that to say, it was. I understand the mental exhaustion.
Yeah.
After those type of days, because then you're trying to spend I really would have loved to had Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday not to do anything, but just to kind of digest and revisit those type of things. So now I got to go back and schedule some time to do that, which I'm sure people from the summit, if they're smart, they're going to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, it definitely, that, by the way, is that the Tennessee that when I was passing on the road, it said Tennessee going that way, that this girl I was dating, thought I was messing with her. I'm like, no, I think that's really Tennessee that you take that road. No, it isn't. That's ridiculous. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you're right. It is the Tennessee. Yes. And
I definitely want to go visit Tennessee. My wife, that's one of her goals. She wants to go there. So I got to bring her one day. But, so yeah, for me, I listen to these guys and I'm like, wow, for example, just listening to Dave Kovar, he's very inspirational, and I really like him because for me, he's like a martial artist, right? Like a coach, like he's a martial artist first. And I enjoy hearing him because he talks about, the martial arts and how that relates to the business, not the business and how you can relate your martial art to doing business, which I love his concept. So like one of the things I wrote down, he said, the 5 mindsets of having a successful school. Number 1 was be the friendliest school in town. Like when people walk in, and I know this, and I'm sure you know this too, is like people, you think that it's easy because we do it every day and it's just like come into a karate school. But like, especially for adults and teenagers, they have this weird mindset of what they're going to expect. Like one of the kids recently, the parents said, my kid wanted to come to class, but we're going to cancel it because he saw the Cobra Kai videos and he doesn't want to get beat up like they do at Cobra Kai. And I said, well, that doesn't happen, but at the same time, bring him in. And then he came in and he ended up joining because it wasn't at all what he thought, right? So that first step is the most scariest for people. Even my wife, Nicole, had said that even coming to my school and knowing who I am, of course, I'm going to protect her, take care of her. She said it was the most intimidating thing that she's ever done in her life was come to the martial arts school.
Yeah, and then that weird that but that goes back to what John Graydon had said is, we've got to watch out our black belt eyes because, we see things from a black belt perspective, a martial artist perspective, and not necessarily the customer or client's perspective all the time.
So he had said, number 1, be the friendliest school. When someone walks through the door, they should feel like they're a long lost relative. And I'm paraphrasing and then adding my own 2 cents to it. But, they should feel like they're the long lost relative that they haven't seen in a while. That's how nice they should feel. And it should have such a great environment and inviting environment. You should breed the mentality that others will then be like, hey, nice to meet you. Other parents that are sitting there and kind of take them under their wing. And hopefully you have no negative Nellies. Because I've had a few that were poison and toxin that would sit in my lobby and a new person would come in and they would tell them bad things. So I don't have that. I have beautiful people that are always like, yeah, my son has done this. My daughter has come out of her shell. This is the greatest. They're so nice. So you have that. Number 1 is being the friendliest environment in town, right? That's the most friendliest environment you could ever have and the friendliest school, quite frankly.
Yeah. So what's the second one?
Second one was, to be the cleanest school in town, right? And I know a lot of people, and I kind of find it funny. I don't know if you have anybody that you follow that are martial artists in your area on Facebook. I have a friend that he's always posting pictures of him cleaning. School's clean and ready, mopping, vacuuming, scrub machines. I'm like, we don't really do that, but we clean a heck of a lot, but we've always cleaned a heck of a lot. Like we're always a clean school. COVID made it a little bit more where we'd spray between classes, which we might not have ever done, or wipe bags down. But you want people to come through the door. I once had a mom, it was really eye-opening to me. I hadn't seen her in many years. And she said, I remember your school. We had great times there. I remember it always smelled like feet though, like, okay, that's not a memory I want in her head, but our schools are people sweating and like continuously moving, but we don't want that to be a memory, right? So we want to be known like just from the smell, from the look, and a lot of times people don't do that. Their schools got garbage pails that are overflowing and, clutter. Like
cobwebs in the corner.
I actually did my topic that I spoke about was retail sales, which, I love talking about that. And I showed a picture of Sanford and Son, the old TV show, and his garage. Yes. And like this pipes and things and everything everywhere. Like I always say, don't make your school look like Sanford and Son, right? So, but that was the thing. Like you want them to walk through and be like impressed, like right away with the smell and the cleanliness and how your school is set up and the decor. Like he called out one of the people that were on the video conference and he says, you see all those blank walls? That's advertising space. You should have all actually, I don't think he said that. Jeff Smith said that. He said it's messaging spots, black belt school, we build champions, family fun environment, like whatever your messaging is that you're trying to get through about your brand should be on those spaces and on those walls.
Yep. Agreed.
So that was number 2. And of course, number 3, which is an interesting one. And I think we tend to forget this, but we have to make sure that every class is like the best class we've ever taught, having great classes. And I have a few clients that struggle with that. Like, I don't know if it's personality. I don't know if maybe they've been doing it for so long that they're like, for me, I have to admit, like, I'll go in like on fire, ready to teach. And then I'll teach the first class. By the second class, I have a bunch of these young youth kids between like 7 and 10 years old and 9 years old. And they don't listen, and they're talking when I'm talking. One kid is licking the wall. The other one is pushing this one. And I'm trying to refocus every skill that I know, pattern interrupts and all this. And still some kids are not listening. And I'm like, oh my God, do I want to be doing this forever? Like, I got to the level where my tolerance level is like this big compared to what it used to be, which was like miles long. And then I get frustrated. So like my guy will come out and be like, Shan, I got this. Let me round them up for you, because they're so used to him because he's there a little bit more than me.
That's what I was going to say. It was different when you were teaching all the time, because they didn't do that with you.
Mm-hmm.
When they originally were your students, I mean, I know they're your students, but when you taught them all the time, yeah, it's totally different.
Although I do teach a lot, so I'm there 4 days a week, not 6. So, but I think though they're, of course, they're creatures of what they do the most. So like, if my one instructor, he teaches from a sense of being joking, like I could see when I'm there, like my class is coming in, I'm like, I tell my team, I'm like, you better not rile them up before the class, pushing them and joking with them and laughing and and I'm like, I want them calm so that when I get them on the floor, they're going to be calm, and then I could start my class and then go from there. I don't want to have to come in and try to rein them in and lower them down. So I think that's a part of it. But anyway, that was the second one. The third one was great classes.
Yeah. Can I add something to that?
Of course.
This is the way I've always looked at it, is the karate mat is the stage. The karate students are the actors on the stage. I'm the director. Right. And the parents, they're the paying members of the audience.
The spectators, right?
Yes. And so I've got to put on the best show that they've ever seen.
Yeah.
Every single time we step out on that.
Yeah.
And I don't mean show as in shows about me, but I mean show with regards to the fact that, obviously we're teaching great martial arts. The students are having a great time. They're getting a great workout. Kind of goes with that was at SSL, sweating, smiling, and learning. But then on top of that the parents are actually engaged and having a good time. I mean, that's when you know that you've taught a good class, is when the parents also are engaged as well.
I muted myself because my stupid dogs were barking. So you're 100% right though, dude. I mean, that's like, and by the way, that probably leads right into the next one, because he had said that you need to have excellent communication. And I am helping someone get indoctrinated into Spark, right? Which for me, I know how valuable it is, and you do, and they're our sponsor and all, but like being able to communicate is the key to success. And by the way, when I say communicate, what Sensei Kovar also meant was not just communicating, hey, this is when the next class is, this is the gear you need to buy, here's your upcoming test, but really, really communicating. And also tied into what Jeff Smith was saying, tying in your goals and communicating your goals and getting them, indoctrinating them into what we do. Because quite often, I think that people still look at us, especially parents that are very busy in this modern society, like we're just another activity.
Yes.
That they're doing with their kids. And I just had a really, it's so disappointing. I had a really good kid. He's in my black belt club, been with me for like 3 years. And for some reason, he kind of fell out of the swing of things. The parents brought him, gave him a break, brought him a little, gave him more of a break. And now he doesn't want to go and he wants to quit. So I tried to talk to the parents. I wish they would have told me ahead of time this was happening, but they participated in it. And now he doesn't want to go anymore. And they're like, well, we don't want to force him. We don't live by that mentality. And, I lost them. Like basically they're done. They're not going to be talked out of it. I can't give them any sense because I'm just another activity. They're not looking at me as if I were a counselor or an educator who's saying like, these are the things you need to do to get your kid to be smart or to be a good part of society. We're just another thing that they do. And without us, no big deal. He'll do other things. So I think that communication all along, as you and I both know, we have an onboarding process and all this other stuff that is so important for our schools to get them to think, the parents, the students to think about the future and what they're going to do and how they're going to be.
Well, and so it's not just the onboarding, but it's also the ongoing boarding.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's after the onboarding process, there needs to be an ongoing boarding process that takes them from each belt level to each upgrade to whatever it is. Yeah.
So I would consider that maybe like more of an educational kind of thing, because also too, as we know, people are probably more engaged between 0 to like 14 months than they'll ever be. And then if they continue on, some of them are still going to stay in the game and really love what they do. And they'll eventually, hopefully, become black belts. But the majority of people, the peak of their excitement is in the newness and the early stages. It's almost like marriage, and you're dating. It's like unbelievable, and that old story where, the girl's like, oh my God, he snorts when he sleeps. It's so cute, and then she's like, I can't believe it. And later on, he snores all night. And the girlfriend said, I thought you said he snorted and that was cute. Yeah, not anymore. I can't sleep. Like, so our tolerance level gets less and less. The newness wears off, and we forget the benefits. In fact, this one parent said to me, I hope that you'll let us out of our agreement. We were very loyal to you during COVID. And I go, yes, you stuck with it during COVID. I said, but weren't we loyal to you? We gave you a place to be, an activity for your son to do. Well, all else shut down. The world was shut down. You were on Zoom for school, which was barely school. And we were there interacting and engaging. You and I, right? We did bingo nights. We did, scavenger hunts. I did a pet show. Like all
did lunchtime with Mr. Brummett.
I know, like Friday nights, that we were giving up of our lives to make sure that we're in. And by the way, I'm glad we did, because thank God, because we're still in business. Other schools refused to do that, and now they're out of business. But at the same time, people don't see that. Like sometimes they all of a sudden they did you a favor, but they were loyal to you. Like they forget.
We brought in guest instructors,
Exactly. Yeah, I think I did. Did I come in as a guest and you came in to me as well, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we had Ken Bigby. We had just a bunch of different people. I mean, I did an interview with a psychologist and gave that to parents and stuff too. We did a two-part interview with that. I also, one of my biggest homeschool parents who has 9 kids.
Right.
I immediately did. All right, now everybody's homeschooled. How do you do this?
Right.
And I did a webinar with her and gave that out. So like I was trying to help any way that I possibly could help.
Yeah, good. And I know people tend to forget that, but that leads to the communication thing that he talked about. Excellent communication, not just initially before you get them signed up, but throughout the entire process, because that communication will get people through the gate of each stumbling block or each speed bump, like from yellow to green or green to blue, blue to purple, purple to brown, brown to black, and then above, so communicating the goals. And back to that great communication, Jeff Smith said too, he said, you have to kind of set up methods of communication that build people's mindset into the future. Like for me, we used to say, what's the quest? They'd go, to be the best. And then I'd say, what's our goal? They'd say black belt. So people were getting their black belt and quitting. So we changed that. What's the quest? To be the best. What's the goal? Black belt and beyond, sir. Like, because if you say something every day, it becomes part of their psyche. In fact, I had a parent one time, one of the parents said, what is this school like? And they say, well, it's not just kicking and punching. It's the martial arts and beyond. That's my slogan, right? But it's been ingrained in their head for so long, they just kind of spit it out. All right, number 5, which was so important. And he said, always be recruiting. And I just today and yesterday on all my coaching calls, I'm saying like, and by the way, this goes to feed into Stephen Oliver. He said, Facebook is great. A lot of us went from doing tons and tons of work to be able to hire an agency like Lead Hunter Media and then fill our bucket with leads. So we gave up on all the other things. And he said, well, normally you would be like, if you were back in the 90s, you would say, I'm doing an ad in the paper. I'm doing bus, signs on buses. I'm doing rack cards. I'm doing VIP. Like the list went on and on and on. And we get little from here, a little from there. He says, but it was a collective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he says, now we just do Facebook, maybe Google, maybe TikTok, right? But it's all stuff that people are doing for us. And now we're super happy. We're like, oh my God, this is so easy. I just pay the dude and he gets me leads. And if he doesn't, a lot of people fire that dude and get another dude to get him leads, right? But for me, I look at it and I go like, why did we give up on all those other grassroots marketing campaigns? And Stephen Oliver is talking about how his schools are still going to the movie theaters and doing booths in the theaters. And they're getting 300-400 leads on a weekend over the course of like Doctor Strange or one of those movies, or, another Marvel film, Spider-Man. And he says they're signing up 30 out of the 300 into full memberships. He says it's worth like $150,000 for that one weekend of your time. Now, I've never had the greatest results doing those things, but even if I were to do it and I got 10 leads and 5 signed up, it'd still be worth it, right? Because one lead would probably pay for the whole entire thing. And the
even if one person signed up and they stayed with it for a year, it was well worth it.
Exactly. So like he had talked about it, and of course Dave Kovar is like, always be recruiting, always be marketing, having your students help you promote referral programs, renewals, and have them bring a friend to testing and all this stuff that you could be doing, handing out VIP passes for you. And then now listening to Stephen Oliver, and he's like, do movie theaters, do fairs, do events and parades. He says there's no reason why you should stop doing that stuff, because if you still are killing it with Facebook, now that's on top of that. So now you're doing double the amount of leads. So that's why his schools are like $1 million schools, and they're signing up 30 people a month. He said because the machine is in full operation. And so it's something that we forget sometimes.
Yeah, well, and I don't know that maybe besides newspapers, because I don't know. We only have one newspaper in town right now. We used to have 2. So, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, he was saying, which I agree, like, print stuff is probably dead. Yellow pages are dead. You're not going to do those things that they've been dead for a long time. Like, they're just not existent anymore.
Well, anytime you can get in front of somebody and have an interaction with them, you have a much better chance.
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
Yeah, we've got a school. I've told you about it before, that it's pre-K, and that we go in. We do like this year we did a 5-week series, 2 times a week. We were the PE teachers,
right?
But in the past we've done up to 9 weeks and stuff like that. But they're doing their annual fair again, which now they can do, where they couldn't the last 2 years. But we're going to have a booth there.
That's great.
We're taking this styrofoam. It's like, I don't know, it's like the styrofoam insulation.
Yeah.
Like the thinner one. And then we're cutting them up to like 12 inches by, I think, 6 in width. And so they're going to be boards, for these little kids. And so we're going to have a booth. And what they have to do is, at this event, they have a sheet and they have to visit so many booths in order to get a prize or something.
Okay.
And so, anyways, we're going to teach them how to hit the pad, with a palm strike or a karate chop, whichever they want. And then after they hit the pad a few times, then we're going to say, all right, now you're going to break this board. 1, 2, 3, break. Boom. They break it. The parents taking the picture at the same time. We give them the board, and then we're going to give them information about the studio and just kind of, move from there.
Yeah, that gets me excited, because like, I don't think when I started, like, there was anything that I didn't do. Like, and with my landscaping company, I advertised everywhere. Like and when I first opened my martial arts school, the adult class we jog once a week. And as we would jog, these 5 people did that side of the road. These 5 people did that side of the road, and running house to house and putting in, and we make it to the end and hit the next block. And by the time we were done, class was over. We hit like 10 blocks in the neighborhood, and we were able to do flyering, putting flyers in their doors, so like that was just another way. And it was training people, and they understood, the students. They never said, oh, I'm paying to run and advertise for you. No, they were like, well, this is part of our workout. We're having fun doing it, and we're helping the school to boot. So I think that people who are listening, school owners should really go back and say to themselves, like, what can I do every day to get my name out there? And that's what I like about this, was the ABR, always be recruiting, or ABM, always be marketing.
And let me say this with Spark, because here's what we're going to do to collect the info.
Yep.
Is with Spark, you can create a, what do you call it? A word.
Right.
That then they can text that word to
Okay, yeah.
What's that called? Keyword.
Yeah.
The keyword. And we're going to basically have a sign. And of course, we're going to be talking about it. But we're going to offer them, we're doing a drawing for train with us the whole summer for free.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, you know, we're going to pick 2 or 3 of them that will win, but then everybody else will get the opportunity to do 1 month free.
Okay.
I love it. But we are going to use technology the way that you can. Have you used the keywords in Spark before?
I have not yet, though. No. And it's
oh my gosh, it is so easy to collect their name.
Yeah.
Well, the way that it works is, you know, of course they do the keyword, then it comes back and says, you know, hey, give me your name, right? And then it'll ask for the email address after that, and then you can send them to wherever you want.
Okay.
You know, from there.
Yeah, I like that.
And then there's different automations that you can create to follow up with them. So, but that's what we're going to do in this instance, so that we can collect their data, and make it. You know, I'm just going to do like, I don't know, free summer.
Yeah.
You know, text the words free summer to this telephone number.
That's great. Like, I mean, so that's another thing. Like, so we're always marketing, we're always recruiting, except that sometimes, I mean, I'm sure you as well as I always like, we'll find ourselves like, you know, a week or 2 could go by and we rely on what we have in place. We have our Facebook in place. We're doing, you know, referral marketing. We maybe are doing a buddy week. But we kind of just sit back and we're not as aggressive as if we hired an advertising person to work for our school, and their sole and primary function is to market the school and get new people through the door. And if they didn't perform with at least a minimum of whatever per week, they're not doing their job well enough, and we're going to have to let them go. And so that they would be out there gung-ho every single day trying to recruit members, right? It's almost like you notice that sometimes, that I don't know if it's intentional, but the military will set up recruitment bases next to bars.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've heard that, and they actually, I think, got away from that. And it might just be something that I read somewhere, maybe in a movie I saw, but people get drunk and it's midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning, there's a recruiting officer in his office waiting for people to stumble through and literally sign up for the military, you know, like that kind of thing. So like they're always on call. They're always ready to go. They're always recruiting, and they recruit, you know, even the military will go to schools and do fairs, and, you know, they have booths, and this is the military, the world's largest military is still out there recruiting to keep millions of people in our armed forces.
Right.
They have to recruit too. You know, so that's interesting. But yeah, so that was the one thing that I really enjoyed from, you know, not one, but the 5 tips. He also had a few others that were really cool. Like, he said you should major in the minor things. I wrote that quote down. I thought that was outstanding. He also had a great quote that I put on my Facebook immediately. He says, hurt people, hurt people. So hurt people will hurt people, right? You know, and that's the way they're hurt. They want to hurt you as well. And I have a friend that sometimes is, I don't know, she says some of the darndest things. Like, came over the other day and saw my pictures all over the wall. She's like, oh my God, that's a lot of pictures. That doesn't look good. I'm like, why would you say that? You know, and do you really like them? That's what she said to me. And I'm like, no, I hate them. In fact, I put them up there to torture myself because I want to look at pictures I hate, and I don't like the way.
You should have said I put them up there specifically to torture you.
Yeah. So, you know, so sometimes you ask, like, why would people say things like that or say miserable things? But you know that when people are not happy, they tend to they don't even know it, but they spew that a little on you. But I love that he said major in the minor things. And the minor things are like, you know, following up and following through, calling up a trial class and seeing how they liked it. You know, I can't believe it, how many people that I talk to in the industry that have an aversion, and they're like, they hate human interaction and calling and texting and emailing and talking to. And I'm like, aren't you in the people person business? Isn't this a business? Like, it's like if I was a lead singer of a rock band, but I hated singing. Doesn't make sense.
I hated singing in front of people.
Right, exactly. That just doesn't make sense. So it's like, we're in this type of business. We have to learn to do it.
Well, COVID didn't help any.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it was like that beforehand, but I think it has spiked even more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not wanting to actually interact with individuals.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm kind of like that. Like my wife Nicole will say, like, if it was up to you, you'd never leave the house. And I'm like, when COVID hit, I was in heaven. Like, I was like, I could teach from my downstairs room. I set up a little dojo. I teach. I walk upstairs. I'm done. Like, it was like very cool for me to be able to have that. And then I had that tranquility of not having to be, but you and I deal with people all day long. So sometimes I don't know if you feel this way, but like when you're done dealing with all your clients for the week, you sit back and you're like, okay, I need a break and I get to just have a little peace and quiet. I'm like that. Like, I need to shut down at certain points, but I still am always with, I love being with people, but when I'm not, I also love that too. But I think that people, like school owners, they need to major in the minor things, the things that make the most difference for them. And I think that was pretty outstanding.
Well, and I think that even like to take that in a different avenue, it kind of reminds me of Giuliani's broken window thing. So, when there's something that needs to be repaired, you don't wait. It could be just a small little paint chip, right? Yeah. But you really need to take care of it right now, because that is majoring in the minors in a different aspect.
And you know what, though? You haven't been to New York in a while, I assume, right? And it literally has gone back in the last 4 years, back 20 years.
I believe it.
So like when I was a kid, we would jump in my car, 16 years old, and I would drive to the city. We could buy nunchucks. We could buy knives and stuff on 42nd Street. There were peep shows and craziness. And all you saw was prostitution, drug deals going on. And then Giuliani cleaned that entire city up. He sold the shops to Disney. 42nd Street became this beautiful place to be. Now New York is dangerous again. Like, I just had a student say to me that he said that they arrested someone for a legal handgun, and before they were done doing the paperwork, that person left and went home.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it's like insane. Like, so, it's bad. But anyway, that whole thing with Giuliani it was so true. Like, because if you get used to seeing the dojo being dirty, what do you think the dojo is? It's a dirty place. If people drop a tissue, are they going to pick it up? No. But if you teach pride, like I'll see something on the ground, garbage, and I'll see 5 people walk past it, and I'll call them all back, and I'm saying, what is that to you guys? And they say, garbage. I go, did any one of you see that? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, you need to look more so you could see what's going on, so that you could be a part of making sure the dojo's clean. And if you see something, fix it. If you see something, mention it. If you see something, be a part of helping be the solution. So that's what I love. That whole major in the minor things is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and to take that into one other or 2 other areas, that needs to happen with the students.
Right.
So if there are small little things that need to be handled, you need to handle them while they're small. Don't wait until they get big, because small hinges swing big doors. And so by the time it becomes a big door, it might be a big problem.
Right.
And the same thing with staff. So if there's a situation that needs to be, you need to approach your staff member on, even though it's uncomfortable. It's better to do it right in the beginning. When it's supposedly, maybe smaller, and not sweep it underneath the rug. You're not going to be the most liked individual all the time, but you will be at least respected. Yeah. And sometimes that's, as I've found out over the years, I think sometimes that's more important than being liked. Right. And I don't mean respected because you're a jerk, but respected because you actually will tell the truth even when it hurts. And even if somebody doesn't like it, and of course you can be tactical on how you present things, but majoring in the minors on every level, not just what we originally spoke about, but in just a lot of different areas.
Yeah, and by the way, I watch a lot of those reality shows like Bar Rescue and Kitchen Impossible, Kitchen Nightmares, and you always hear the employees saying, like, I don't have any direction. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, so I don't do anything. Like, I once had a kid, it was the most funniest thing ever, interview for a job as a program manager. He's probably in his 20s. So my question was, well, what would you do if you had downtime? You had 10 things to do, but you did them all. What would you do? So proudly, he said to me, I crank up the music, and he stood up and I'll dance and sing. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome, buddy. Okay, cool. All right, great. Well, so, all right, we have enough information. And I'm like, get him the hell out of there. Like, I definitely would not hire this person. Right. So you wonder, like, but who taught him that was okay? Like, we have a situation right now and it's interesting because the parents know it's happening and they keep telling me, but so we have a little kid, he's probably like 7. And the last 3 nights he comes home with items from my store. and the parents are like, where'd you get that rubber throwing star? Oh, Joey gave it to me. So they come to me. They're like, was he in class? No, he wasn't in class last night. Okay, so that's a lie. So the parents are like, he's stealing things, but he's 7. He knows because he's taking it, because he's not mentioning it. But then they're a little unsure if he really understands that stealing is wrong. So I'm like, but the parents are hard. They want me to teach him, and they want me to be hard on him. Like, they're not like, because they're telling me they could easily just not mention it, right? Because I didn't. He goes, one of the parents like, could you go through the camera system and see if this was taken? And I'm going like, what was it? It was like a $2 item. I go, I'd rather not, like spend an hour scrubbing through old footage.
Oh, gotcha.
So he's like, well, I think he took it. I go, well, we can have a talk with him. So like, this is the 3rd thing that he's taken. So tonight I'm going to have a conversation with him, and I'm going to be like hard on him. Like my dad was hard on me. So, but we have to be hard on employees, not hard and mean, but like give them parameters, give them goals, give them things what to do. And a good friend of mine has a school, and my nephew through marriage is one of the highest ranks in that school, and he took off, and now he's teaching there again. So I asked the instructor, how did he do? He goes, okay. I go, did you give him a list of things you wanted him to teach? No. Did you give him any parameters of what you wanted done? No. I go, well, then you can't get mad at him for not doing what you thought, because you didn't give him anything. You gave him nothing. You just let him go out there and freestyle it, right? So we have to guide our employees on that.
Yeah, if we don't have direction, the leader's at fault.
Absolutely. It's 100% our fault. So another one, Jeff Smith was pretty awesome. Like he had said that, we forget that the martial arts, the advantage of martial arts is that it has to be goal-based. Like our society is very goal-based, right? So I think in Eastern culture, in Japan, everyone wants to learn and they want to pass the test, but their goal is to be great at what they do, not necessarily learn kata number 4, right? So he said that, we have to have goals, and we have to, the systems have to be goal-based. And then there has to be progressions and entry level, intermediate level, advanced level, and black belt level, where they're shooting for those next tiers, and the school has to monitor those students and push them through each level, make sure there are no sticking points, because sometimes we say they quit at green belt. Well, why? Were they frustrated? Did they not feel challenged? Did they not enjoy what they were doing? I think that it's important for us to see, and he says recognize when they're ready as the instructor, not wait for them to recognize when they're ready. So like, for example, I have a kid, the black belt, prospective black belt club member. And so I asked the kid, I'm like, I've been asking you for a while, why don't we get you into the black belt club? He says, no, I'm not ready. When I'm ready, I'll let you know. I'm like, why do you think you're not ready? Like, you don't even know what it is required. And I guess because of the name Black Belt Club, he feels that he has to have a certain level of proficiency. If I could go back in time, I would change the name.
Well, that's why I changed mine from black belt to leadership. And that was exactly. Stephen Oliver's recommendation.
Right. Yeah. And again, because anytime people think of that club, they think, I'm only a white belt. I'll think about that in the future.
What's intimidating?
It is. And they also think like, hey, I still have plenty of time, or I'm not ready. I'll look funny. So anyway, I had a chat with him, and I said, you do realize like people at beginner level join Black Belt Club. It's nothing more than a name. I had to explain it to him. He's like, oh, I didn't realize, So again, I'm helping him push through each level. And if we don't do that for our students and we just let them stay idle, then we end up shooting ourselves in the foot. Right. So that was a really great lesson. And, I think that he said you also have to always constantly be planting the seed. And I have a funny story for that, too, and to nurture that mindset. So you're the one saying, like, what's your goal? Black belt. Right. You're going to continue. You never, white belts never quit, or a black belt is a white belt that never quit. And you have to grow and nurture that seed after you plant it, right? And you continually do it. And the reason why I say I have a funny story is we have these pictures on our wall of our characters, eagle, bear, wolf, owl, fox, cheetah. And we had small ones that were about, maybe like 6 inches in width, but we got new ones and they happen to print them really big. So they're like 12 inches. So I put them up the other day, the newer ones, and they're bigger now. One of the little kids pulls on my gi. He's like 3.5. Shihan. And I'm like, yeah, he goes, did you water those? And I'm like, water what, buddy? And he points to the stickers. And I'm like,
water them.
And I'm like, did I water them? He's like, yeah. Did you water them? Because they get bigger, they grow. My dad says when you water things, they grow. And I'm like, how adorable, right? Like to see, but that mindset is like, it's so true. Like we need to water and nurture what we want and expect. And if sometimes I think martial artists, sometimes I know I have falls short of expecting people just to go through the progressions naturally and just be able to figure it out on their own and be able, when they hit a stumbling block and they don't feel comfortable and they feel the feeling that maybe they're frustrated and they want to quit, but they don't know why, we need to be there for them. And that goes back to Dave Kovar's with exemplary, communication, and how do we do that? And by the way, I have that now in my system where when they get promoted to white belt, they get an automation for four or five steps: email, text, email, text, email. And it's saying, congratulations on your belt. This is what you should expect. This is what we expect. This is how you could do it. Here's some training tips. And it kind of nurtures them along in that belt, where I never used to do that. I would just hope that they'd figure it out.
Right. Yeah, so, most definitely. Yeah, we can't leave anything up to interpretation.
Right.
Because the potential is severe if we're leaving it up to their interpretation. And so we've got to, like you said, we've got to craft the message. We've got to be the excellent communicator with that. And you know what? That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. But what I've always told school owners is take this group of white belts that are in right now, decide how you want to communicate to them, and then give it to them, build it. And then once they become a yellow belt, decide, okay, this is what I want to deliver to them, and build it. And so if it takes 4 years to get the black belt, it's just going to take you 4 years to create that system. But from right now to 4 years from now, don't you plan on being open anyways?
Mm-hmm.
So why bombard yourself and think that you have to come up with a 4-year system in 2 weeks? Or even in 2 years? Why not take 4 years to develop it and just follow this group of students all the way through? And when something comes up, you go, man, I wish I would have said that. You go back to it. You interject into it what you want. I would just say be very, very smart on how you, or strategic on how you deliver that information. So what I mean by that is when we first started putting our curriculum on video, of course, what did everybody do? We created VHS tapes, right? Well, I'm not that old, so I created DVDs.
Right.
The problem was, is if you, but the problem is if you, if you decide to change something in your curriculum, you can't change that DVD.
Right. So
fast forwarding, when I had my first online portal, I was able to, take the DVDs, all the videos, footage from it, and then, chop it down and make them into individual videos. And then now if I change something, all I have to do is change that individual video. So that's kind of what I mean is when you are creating this system from white to yellow, create individual things. If you're going to do videos, don't make it one video that covers all 12 points. Maybe it needs to be 12 videos that cover the 12 points, because if you ever change a point, you only need to change one video, not a 12-minute video, but a 1-minute video. Right. So just be, very strategic with that is kind of where I'm going with that. But if it takes you 4 years, it takes you 4 years to create it.
Look, remember the speaker, Bob Alexander?
Yeah.
I bought like his school teaching, 100 cassette tape thing. You open it up and there's each cassette tape, and then I never even took it out of the package, and by the time I got to it, and I just got rid of so much stuff, it was the DVD phase, and then I never even listened to it, and now it's not even DVD anymore. Everything is digital download. Streaming, I have people that said to me, and it kind of forced me to do what you said with my curriculum, is get to take my DVD, have my guy cut it up into the techniques in section, and then I put it on our Spark University, which is phenomenal, where you could go in, and it's literally Spark has it for free and can set up the entire an entire lesson plan, and then you could charge for it. So I have people that every morning, because I use Vimeo, to house my videos. When I see people, like it'll tell me, so and not the person, but someone watched, 101 drills for an exciting classroom, or someone watched your 5 jujitsu moves. And I'm able to see people watching the stuff that's on DVD because they bought the program digitally and they watch it on their phone, they watch it on the way to work, or and if they're on the train. It's a smart way to go. And it was really, it's really such a great thing to do, have it available.
Yeah. So I just wanted to interject that is,
Oh, that's great.
Make sure you chunk it down, or like at least take a moment to think about how can I, if I ever need to change any piece of this, how can I make it changeable from the get-go?
I did that with some of my onboarding, and I went back and said, hey, what can I add in that would be fun for them to have? And I was able to say, if it was paper and like years ago, have it printed and you have 10,000 copies and buy in bulk and things change, you're like out to the garbage. Now it's digital. You could just change the wording. You could add a quick video. You could add in supplementary stuff and addendums to the curriculum or additions to the curriculum. It just keeps you live and flexible. I think that's a great idea. So anyway, I mean, there's so much on this. I mean, we talked to Matthew Brenner and Solomon's brother, and he talked about school visits and how to get the maximum amount of visits and how you could get into the school systems. That was amazing. Tony Giannini, he's a master on doing ClickFunnels and summer camp. And he does a summer camp that, makes more than most schools make in an entire year just over the course of the summer. He gave some great tips, which was amazing. Tom Patiri, he's a good friend of mine, such a good guy. I so respect him because he's such, I was at a martial art convention where I was a speaker in North Carolina that Toby Milroy actually produced. And so check this out. This just goes to show, I mean, I felt like amazing, but I came in like 5 minutes late because I had just gotten there and we drove there. So I sat in and he was on stage, within 3 minutes, he recognizes I'm there. He literally walks off the stage. I'm like, oh, what's happening? He comes up next to me and gives me a hug. And then he points. He's like, if you want to see a great martial artist, this dude's great at what he does. But he didn't have to do that. And I felt like, wow, that's kind of cool. Like a legendary, kind of like really high-end person would take the time just for a small guy like me and say nice things. So I've always just imagined what a humble, great human that he is. But he talked about a lot of really cool things. Like, for example, the adult market in the martial arts. He was talking about how, how we overlook certain things, which he said, we want an adult market, but we tend to forget that some of the people coming to the adult market have existing injuries, bad knees. He said, and he read the percentages, how many people have a bad back or a back ailment, a bad knee, hip replacement, heart conditions. Like a good majority of the older population have some sort of ailment or overweight, out of shape, haven't worked out in years. And then he says, that's not including the baggage. They were bullied as a kid, beat up as a kid, all this other stuff. And he says, and then you just want them to come there and become a student and forget all their fears and forget all their problems and just say, I'm ready to change my life and join the school. He said, even when they do join, it's a very uncomfortable process to get rid of a lot of these, I'd say, anchors, the baggage anchors that we have, and that's why they're jaded. Like a lot of times, you say, I have a few adults. I'm like, dude, just be quiet. Stop overthinking things. Just train and enjoy yourself. You don't have to get your belt in 2 weeks and in 4 weeks. You just have fun. That's the first lesson, is to be able to learn to have fun and just enjoy without having to set unrealistic goals on yourself, right? I guess you get this with weight loss, right? The people go, Dwayne, I've been with you for 3.5 days and I didn't lose 42 pounds. I don't understand it. It's unrealistic. Do you have that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Or even if the body stalls, because that has happened, I had a lady who just in our check-in call on Monday, she only lost 0.6 pounds last week. Right. So that's, 0.6,
yeah,
not 6 pounds, 0.6. And I said, well, I said, did you take your measurements? And she goes, no, I didn't take my measurements. I said, do me a favor, take your measurements.
Right.
And so she took her measurements. She texted me back and she goes, oh my gosh, I'm I'm almost an inch down on my waist.
Great, right?
She goes, I didn't even lose a full pound yet. I'm almost an inch down on my waist. I said, let me just tell you that I can't tell you why this happens, but I can tell you that your body is changing. Mm-hmm. And yes, maybe you didn't lose the weight that and by the way, average weight loss is 1 to 2 pounds a week anyways, but I can't tell you why you didn't lose the amount of weight that you wanted to lose, and yet you lost almost an inch on your waist, and then right. Other places as well, different measurements. I said, that's why it's not all just about the weight. It's also the measurements. And right. Then we also, we talk about the fact that we do a systems check. Did you eat your 6 times a day? Did you get your water
right.
intake in?
Right.
How's your sleep going? I mean, what's your stress level like? And we go through, we're going to do a systems check.
Right.
And those things are just as important, if not more important, than the weight loss, because if you are doing all those things, guess what happens? You're going to lose the weight.
Right. Right. Yeah, so you see that, right? Like where people don't get the gains or the wins or whatever, and then they're
unrealistic expectations, like you said.
Yeah, and by the way, that happens with school owners where they're like, "Hey, I wanted to, their goal is 30 students this month." I go, "But is that a realistic goal? Like, have you ever had 30 students in 1 month? Some people do more, but
the question is, are you doing the actions to get
exactly.
that? And what they don't understand, most of them, is they don't know how many leads they need to have in order to actually have 30 students.
Right.
So if they're signing up 50% of their trials,
mm-hmm.
let's just say, that means they needed 60 trials.
Right.
Well, but there's still an off point, because how many people opted in but never showed up?
Right.
So maybe they need, 90 people to opt in order to have 60 people actually show up.
Right.
To actually sign up. So did you do enough to have 90 people opt in?
Right.
And
okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and then I was going to say, and then do you even have the structure to be able to handle 30 people?
Right.
Because you could be in worse shape having 30 people join than if you only had 10 people join, because you're going to have 20 people or even 25 people leave and talk badly about you because you couldn't service them.
That's what we were just talking about before we started the call. Going slow growth sometimes is better growth, because as you're growing slowly, you're still focused on your retention and that communication. So you're losing less as you're gaining, so that your growth numbers are going up, versus having that in front door, out through the back door mindset, because you're so focused on new people, you're not focused on the existing people. So that becomes a very, very tough situation for schools to juggle.
So one of my coaches, I love this phrase: marry the process and divorce the results.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Marry the process and divorce the results. So obviously, if you want 30 signups, you need to do actions enough to get 90. In the case that we talked about, 90 people to actually opt in. Which that means, I don't know. Let's say 300 people had to see your ad, or 500 people had to see your ad, or whatever it is, or ads, because you can't just rely on one marketing source like we talked about before. And so that's why it's important to, have those processes from, like we talked about, onboarding,
mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And a whole array of things we don't have time to go into.
Right.
But we get so locked into the results that we forget to actually work the process, marry that process.
Yeah.
And by the way, you got to make sure that you have a really good process too. It's and a time-tested process. So, getting it from Allie on how, you run your school, or, whoever, but if you don't know how to have that correct process, you're not going to have the results at all. But marry the process, divorce the results.
Yeah. And by the way, if you don't do what you just said, and I love that, is sometimes we second guess the process, and we're not giving the process enough time, because you're always looking at the results. Like, I hired Gus. Okay, Gus from Lead Hunter Media, the first month he didn't get me as many leads, and I didn't blame him. I thought, like, what am I doing wrong, like, because I told them what special to run. And then so I said, how about we try something new? And we tried that, and we got a little bit better results. And then we tried another one, we got even more. And then one went down even worse until we found the magic sauce for me. Everybody's got to learn that there's a process of elimination. You sometimes do split testing, try two separate things at the same time to see what works better. I don't think we do enough result analyzation where we just kind of shoot the arrow and hope that it's going to hit the target. And if it doesn't, we're mad at the arrow or the shooter.
Yeah.
Right? But we're not ever looking at, well, could be the shooter, of course, but if the arrow's crooked, every time you shoot it, it's off target. So we got to make sure that we look at our process and make sure it's the right process as well. And that's where some good coaches come in.
So I know the Martial Arts Business, Growth Summit is done.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody wants to still get that information, right? It was all digitized, and
we have everything. Everything's recorded. Every session was recorded. And by the way, we had 11 speakers, and we also did 5 physical trainings during the day as well. So that Gil Katz did a whole bunch of Krav Maga stuff. I even had my guy come in and teach a grappling class for people to do drills with their students, not necessarily grappling, but they could, like what he taught when we had COVID, we had Zoom. He taught grappling classes to people who didn't have partners. Like Kenny Bigby taught how to have a grappling buddy, right? And make a grappling buddy. So we had that. So there was 5 sessions for that. And by the way, they could basically just go to the martialartgrowthsummit.com. It's that easy. It was that simple.
Okay, and we'll put that in the show notes, but then also let's put it on this thread as well, if you would.
Yeah, I'll do that right now. I'll put it in there. And they could join. The only thing they won't get is live interaction, but they'll be able to watch every seminar, we also do an intro every single day that we talk about certain highlights from the day before or topics that we didn't get to cover. So that was a pretty good thing as well. So yeah, it was really, for me, I looked at it when it was all done and I'm going like, this is a really powerful training tool for school owners.
Yeah.
So I just popped the link in the message right in there.
Perfect. Thanks for doing that. Now, before we go, I just got to say this. So in our town today, we have some excitement that's happening.
Okay.
Because you'll never guess who's coming to visit a farm owner in this area, who I know the actual farm and the farm owner that they're coming to, he's coming to visit.
See, I have mental insight, so I'm going to say Donald Trump.
It is not. It's actually Joe Biden.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So Joe Biden is going to be flying over our town. And my wife just texted me. She said there's going to be 3 helicopters around Biden's helicopter from O'Hare to Kankakee Airport. So she said, keep an eye out for the helicopters. I knew this was coming up anyways, just because I know the farm owner that that he's coming to visit. So
what's he gonna do? Go there and confuse everyone? No, just kidding.
I don't know. And it's
no political comments from me.
Yeah, I just look, I had a conversation with one of my health clients who was like, I can't believe they're letting him come to their farm and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know what? It's an honor.
Yeah.
That the president of the United States is coming to your farm.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with them or not, whether you I would still be honored.
Yeah.
Now have there been some presidents that I would be more happy to see than others?
Yeah,
certainly.
Of course.
But that's all our personal preferences, right?
Yeah, exactly. But
so she had just texted me that, so I had to say that towards the end.
That's pretty awesome, man. I love it. All right, great. Good luck. Let me know if you see the helicopters. That must be a sight to see.
Yeah. Look, I got work I got to get done. I'm not going to be outside.
They have some protective helicopters, probably like Blackhawks, that are following through to make sure he's safe.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's crazy.
I'm sure. I know that there's protests that are happening down on the whole street that he's going to be going down and everything. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, all right, dude. Thanks so much. Well, I'm happy that we're back on next week. We're back on at 12:30.
Yes, sir. As far as I know.
Okay. All right. You keep us posted. I'll try to make sure everyone is on it. All right, dude. All right. We'll see you soon. Have a good day. Have a good one. Take care, everybody. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye, sir. Appreciate you.
Yeah. I appreciate you as well. See you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out Elite Insights for all your website needs. LeadHunterMedia.com, your online digital marketer and content provider. Academy Kings BJJ Growth Consulting and Management Group at GrowMyAcademy.com. SparkMembership.com, hands down the best martial arts software for school owner management on the planet. GetKarateStudents.com, a martial arts growth consulting company for all your systems. AddHealthCoaching.com, helping school owners create a whole nother revenue stream